Hello YouTube, I'm Zach, you're watching ZakDTV, the place for interesting news from around the net. Today's episode, we are going to talk about a very neat experiment that just went up on the shuttle the other day. The military wants some new drones, and it looks like they're going to get them. And then we're going to wrap up with a great reason to quit smoking. All that's coming up. And hey, if you like news stories like this every day, Monday through Friday, go ahead and click that subscribe button over here on that icon or down there, that red bar. Be sure to hit the bell notification, and you'll know every time I put a new video up. Well, let's get right into this. Tuesday, we had another successful launch of an Atlas V rocket from Cape Canaveral to go and resupply the space station. On board this rocket is a neat experiment called the QB50 experiment. This is made up of 28 CubeSats, all on a spring-loaded launcher. Now, if you don't know, a CubeSat is a little tiny. They're about 4 by 8 inch satellites with no propulsion in them. They're built with off-the-shelf parts, and they're really cheap, disposable, just meant to go up there for an experiment and come crashing back to Earth. These experiments were put together by 15 different groups, including scientists and students from around the world. The goal is to take them aboard the space station, and somewhere next month, they're going to push them out of the airlock and launch them one at a time towards the Earth's atmosphere. And basically, like they said in the press release, it's going to develop a string of pearls in our atmosphere. The orbit is going to slowly decay, and they're going to hit our atmosphere and start slowing down and be drugged in through the atmosphere, taking readings the whole time. The goal of their mission is to study the thermosphere. The thermosphere is the area of our atmosphere between 50 miles up and 190 miles. You might say, hey, that sounds pretty low when we have stuff in orbit in outer space. It is very low, and that's part of the problem. That's why we haven't studied it much. The air there is continuously stirred by solar winds from above and by Earth's weather from below. So it's a very turbulent, mucky, nasty part of our atmosphere that we just can't keep anything there in flight. With this new project, they hope to be able to gather data from 28 separate spots, all at the same time as these satellites drop in our atmosphere and eventually burn up. They're going to be pulling information about density, temperature, atomic makeup, molecular makeup of this thermosphere as they come through. There will also be 2 satellites that are testing new technology to help deorbit satellites, because that's really becoming a big problem for spaceflight, is we have so many man-made satellites up there, and we can't find ways to deorbit all these ones that are out of commission. So 2 of the satellites are going to be testing different types of sail technologies. One is just going to be basically a parachute popping out the back to create drag and drag it down. The other one is going to have an inflatable mast with a sail off of it for the same effect. It's a drag sail to pull it back to the Earth. I hope this test goes well, because the next launch they want to do is 8 CubeSats launched the same way from the space station, but so they'll be in a polar orbit, and they can get readings that way as well. If anything cool comes out of this, you know I'm going to cover it. So I'll keep you posted on anything I find out. You know, when I started this channel, I didn't plan on talking about as much military tech as I do. But I have come to find out that when you have a budget like the military does, you come out with some pretty cool stuff. Now, we've already discussed the F-16 drone they made, a full-size fighter jet with autonomous capabilities. Well, now, the Navy wants to get in on this. A couple years back, they were testing the X-47B, which is a flying wing design, fully autonomous, carrier-launched jet. And it was considered a success. It successfully launched from the carrier, went up, it refueled in midair by itself, it came back down, did a touch-and-go landing, circled around, and did a straight carrier landing. At that, that's everything you can ask for a jet flying off of an aircraft carrier. Well, with that success, the Navy goes, oh, we want more. Their next project, they want a jet tanker to refuel aircraft in flight. They're calling it the MQ-25 project, or the Stingray. I think they get that name from taking the flying wing with a refuel hose hanging out the back. It does kind of look like a Stingray. They have awarded preliminary contracts to 4 major manufacturers. They are General Atomics. They produce the Predator drones. We also have Lockheed Martin. They have their Skunk Works, and they also have the RQ-170 drone. We have Boeing, which is looking at building a autonomous Super Hornet, which is already used as a tanker. It's about the size of what you'd picture a normal jet fighter to be, but they strap a bunch of gas tanks to it and use it as a refueling station. And of course, Northrop Grumman, who has the X-47B project. The reason for this is they're trying to stay further away from our enemies. When we have things like China recently announced their carrier-destroyer missile, which is a supersonic missile capable of hitting our aircraft carriers further away than our planes can fly. So what's the solution? You put an unmanned tanker halfway out, and our planes can reach you then. Plus, it keeps our carriers out of range. They hope to have this new project on the carriers by the early 2020s, which shouldn't be too hard because they already have working prototypes of this X-47. All they really need to do is fill it up with gas and put it up there. It's quite an easy project compared to what they want to do with it in the future, which is reconnaissance and bombing. So in the long run, it looks like we won't have any pilots in harm's way if the Navy, the Marines, and the Air Force get what they want out of these drone programs. It kind of makes you wonder what warfare is going to look like in the future. Is it just going to be who could break more of whose toys? We can hope for that. Next, I want to look at a video which is some great evidence as to why you should quit smoking. From what I get, this happened in Tehran, Iran. And you can see this guy's walking down, he sees a hole, drops a cigarette in it, and boom! There it is. That is the sewer blowing up in his face. I have to assume that that wet-looking stuff that was flying up is human waste. Yeah, I thought that was a fun little thing for the end here. Remember, if you like what I do, your friends might too. So go ahead and share me on Facebook and Twitter. I am here Monday through Friday, 5 days a week. Today's Thursday, so I'll be back tomorrow. I'll see you guys then. Be safe.